Good morning. Good morning to everybody and welcome to the Veterans for Peace business meeting. We're going to show you one more video. It's about climate and we'll start now. Ellen, do you want to show it? This is a production that was brought to us through Mike Ferner. Thank you. And let's see. Okay, thank you.
In a world facing an ever-growing climate crisis, there's a powerful force working toward a more sustainable and peaceful future. At Veterans for Peace, we understand the intersection of climate and militarism. Our mission is clear: to promote an end to war and protect our planet. We've seen the cost of war and its impact on the environment. That's why we're committed to creating a better future for all. Veterans for Peace, for a sustainable and peaceful world. Visit us at veteransforpeace.org.
Sorry, y'all. This evening's program, we're going to begin with a blessing by Oren Lyons, a leader of the Haudenosaunee whose culture is seen through expressions of thanks for all we have and hope to have, which is shared among nations. Throughout every ceremony, there is a respect for each living thing and thanks given out of respect for all that has been received, an essential value which forms the foundation for much of the ways is the duty of preparing for the seventh generation. The Haudenosaunee believe that we borrow the earth from our children, and it is our duty to protect it and the culture for future generations. At this point, I'd like to begin to introduce the members of the Veterans for Peace National Board of Directors and ask you, each person, to describe what it is that you do with the Veterans of Peace National Board. And we'll begin with Josh Shirley.
Hi, everyone. Josh Shirley here, Board Vice President, Chapter 180 out of Fresno, California. Joined VFP about 7 years ago, and I'm very happy to be here, and I'll pass it along. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Mike Tork.
I do as little as possible, basically. No, kidding. I'm the treasurer for Veterans for Peace, which I actually take very seriously. It's a big job, but I enjoy it. That's it.
Thank you. Paul. We can't hear you, Paul.
Talking louder doesn't help.
There we go. Sorry, I lost my screen trying to take a bunch of notes because that's my job. I'm the secretary, national secretary of VFP. So, taking notes. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Enya.
Hello, my name is Enya Makia Anderson. I joined VFP about 5 years ago. I'm based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm here ready to do the business meeting.
Thank you, Enya. Ellen Barfield.
One of two Ellens now on the board. I'm very pleased to say I'm Ellen Barfield. She or they on stolen Piscataway land Somebody muted me again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Don't know what that was about. Anyway, I'm on stolen Piscataway land, now called Baltimore, and I'm the co-founder of the Baltimore Phil Berrigan Memorial Chapter back in '03. Was on the board then and am back filling an unexpired term. I represent us to the UN. I'm on the nominating committee and we'll report about that later. Been a member since '88 and glad to be here.
Thank you, Ellen. Jerry Condon.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm the board liaison to the Communications Committee, which coordinates our various internal and external media, the VFP website, social media, newsletter, e-news, VFP radio, Peace and Planet News, as well as reaching out externally to get our word out in other media, and of course our internal listservs, etc. I also facilitate the monthly meetings of the Golden Rule Committee, and I'm very involved in planning and executing the voyages of the Golden Rule. I serve on the coordinating committee of the nuclear abolition working group and facilitate our monthly meetings there. I'm along with Ellen Barfield, I represent VFP on the Peace in Ukraine Coalition, which has been somewhat dormant during these times of the Gaza genocide, where that's where everybody's putting their focus, but we see a lot in common there. We're calling for a ceasefire and no more U.S. weapons to Ukraine or Israel. I also sit in on the meetings of the Korea Peace Campaign whenever possible. I think that I see the risk of nuclear war greater than ever right now, with the wars that we're facing in Ukraine, in the Middle East, and the possibility of U.S. wars again with China and North Korea. So I agree with the Veterans for Peace Nuclear Posture Review, which says we need a sea change in our foreign policy. We need to end these wars, and we need to adopt a brand new foreign policy which respects the sovereignty of all nations, the human rights of all people. I'm really excited. Finally, I'll just say the month of September that we're coming up here just in a couple of weeks, going to be a month of resistance to corporations who are complicit with war making, with genocide, and with global warming. So we have that first week of September. I'm sure there'll be more talk about that today, for a focus on challenging the weapons manufacturers that are complicit in making money off the genocide in Gaza. The Nuclear Abolition Working Group and Veterans for Peace is also working with the ICANN Global Week of Action against spending on nuclear weapons. That's September 16th to 22nd. We're also going to be targeting weapons manufacturers with direct action and other forms of protest.
Hey, Jerry, I think this is just quick intro of yourself as a board member.
I got one more sentence, and that is that the last week of September, there will be a focus on the energy companies that are causing global warming. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry. Ellen Davidson.
The real one. So I only did that because now I'm going to sound like a complete slacker after Jerry's list. So yeah, I'm the associate member on the board, a position that was just created this year. I work with the communications committee. I work with Peace and Planet News, the newspaper and the website. I was one of the two main organizers of the Peace Walk this year. And I do the tech on the convention, and it's usually a little better than the start of this meeting. So I apologize for all of the confusion that happened. And we learned that lesson now for next year. And thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. And I just have to say quickly, it's been a huge job to be able to put the virtual convention together. And thank you, Ellen, for organizing everything technical and getting us here. And hopefully we're not all known as Ellen Davidson right now. Thank you. Matt Southworth.
It was an honor and a privilege to be temporarily known as Ellen Davidson. I am currently Matt Southworth, live in Connecticut and part of Chapter 42 out here. Yeah, I do development stuff. So mainly work with Zool and Mike, and we try to beat the bushes for support for VFP. It's a lot of fun, and we've done some pretty good work together. So excited for year to come and what's possible. That's it for me.
Thank you, Matt. Kelly Wadsworth.
Good morning. Can you see me? No,
Almost.
I can't.
You look a little
Well,
fun.
Sorry, I think my camera is doing something weird. I'm Kelly Wadsworth. Greetings from Salem, Oregon. It's morning time here, and I serve on the board, and I serve as the chair of the Transformative Justice Committee. Good morning to everyone. Good to see you.
Thank you, Kelly. Mike Wong.
I'm Michael Wong. I joined what became the San Francisco chapter of Veterans for Peace back during World War I. I've been involved ever since. I'm on the board. Michael Kramer and myself are the co-coordinators of the China Working Group. We also have a YouTube channel. If you look us up under working groups, you'll find us, and there's a link to our YouTube channel as well. And I'm also co-founder of Pivot to Peace, which is
bad people right there.
Thank you. I'm also a co-founder of Pivot to Peace, which is a coalition of the Chinese community and the peace community. And I also serve on the Transformative Justice Committee.
Thank you, Mike. Stephen Zollman. We can't hear you, Steve.
Stephen, you show unmuted, but we still can't hear you.
No, can't hear you.
Sorry, can't hear you.
Have him go back out and come back in.
Hold on just a second. We can wait a minute. Patience, everybody.
Well, he's working on it. Nick
is here somewhere. Nick, are you on?
I got him.
Terrific. Thank you. Nick, we're asking the board members to introduce themselves.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, and we can see you too.
Okay. I'm Nick Modern. I'm talking to you here from my garage in Northampton, Massachusetts. Been involved in a lot of protests around Gaza. Here's a puppet that we've made. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And very glad to be here and be with everybody in solidarity. And particularly thank you to Ellen for taking care of all these technical, how should we say, peculiarities and difficulties. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Stephen Zollman, are you ready?
Yes, does this work any better?
Sure, yes, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Stephen Zollman, he, him, Vice Mayor Sebastopol, serve on the Transformative Justice Committee, bylaws resolution, have weighed in on estate planning and serve on the nominating committee. Thank you, good morning.
Thank you, Stephen. We also wanted to make sure for the members and for the annual meeting that you all got a sense and an understanding of our national staff and all the work that they do so that you can place the face with the name with the work. And we'll start with Shelley Rocket.
Good morning, everyone. For those that don't know me, I've been with the organization for 13 years. This December will mark 14. You probably don't see me much, but I'm in the background working to ensure I's are dotted and T's are crossed. I've had several roles within the organization, which leads me to perform tasks not necessarily in my list of responsibilities. My main responsibility is reporting to the treasurer, all money coming in and out of the organization. I did want to share with the chapter leaders that I have worked with the our insurance broker to give chapters let me start over. I've worked with our insurance broker to include insurance coverage for VFP nationally sponsored chapter events. So chapter leaders, if you're ever in need of a certificate of insurance, email me. It's been a pleasure to work with the members of the board and be a part of this wonderful staff. Enjoy the remainder of the convention and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Becky.
Hi, everyone. I'm Becky Looning, and I am not technically an employee. I'm an independent contractor, but I've been a member of Veterans for Peace since about 1997, and it's really a community for me. I started working as doing some volunteer stuff. I've been involved in doing convention booklets and print newsletters maybe for the last 6 years or so. I haven't kept track. So now I'm doing a lot more. I'm doing the e-news, which I kind of fell off, while we were getting ready for the convention, about twice a month. The print newsletter, helping with the convention. I'll do the commemorative booklet for the convention. So basically my thing is editing and graphics. I've also created a couple graphics for VFP recently, and I'm really enjoying that work. I worked on a lot of the ads for this year's convention advertising, and it's just wonderful. I really like, it's a labor of love being involved with this community and helping facilitate those communications. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Becky. Mike Werner.
Thank you very much, Susan. I live in Toledo, Ohio, right on the shore of Lake Erie, and have served for a little over a year as a national director. Now I'm working as a special projects coordinator. And very quickly, I'd like to thank the technical crew that's keeping us all glued together. You've met some of them: Ellen Davidson, Shelley Rocket, Becky Looning. There's also Chris Smiley and Sean Nestor. They are doing a great job, so thank you. This is my brief report of special projects, and I want to start it off with this short message that I got in an email today from Terry Lodge. It's the last tweet from a Palestinian group called Martyrs of Gaza, and it reads like this: "We believe there is no point in telling our human stories anymore. Everyone has grown accustomed to seeing us killed. It's no longer worth the risk to send our voice out to a world that is content with mere solidarity. Please try to keep us in your prayers." Brothers and sisters in Veterans for Peace, we can do more than mere solidarity. Please listen closely to VFP's official call to action, which I'm going to read right now. Members of Veterans for Peace do not need to recount the horrors that have engulfed the people of Gaza in order to rekindle our blood-boiling anger. We witness those horrors in real time as the bombs we pay for rain day and night on innocent people. Anyone possessing a shred of humanity, especially we who have seen the terrors of war, instinctively feel Martin Luther King's fierce urgency of now. Therefore, it unmistakably follows we must do all in our power to halt the ongoing nightmare in Palestine. As military veterans, we have witnessed war's depravity, and who are casualties of the lies that started those wars. We have the right and the duty to express our outrage, but more importantly, to call for a new wave of resistance to compel our government to stop Israel's genocide. Specifically, during the September days of solidarity with Palestine, we call on all VFP members and chapters to commit to organize with our allies the following 3 actions from September 1st through the 7th. Number 1, deliver to congressional offices, military bases, or any appropriate government office the VFP letter that lists the U.S. laws government employees and weapons makers violate every time arms are shipped to Israel. Number 2, do our non-violent best to enforce those laws by holding simultaneous civil resistance actions to stop operations at those facilities. And third, join local campaigns to get governments and universities to boycott Israeli goods and divest Israel government bonds. Dr. King's fierce urgency of now demands we risk for peace at least as much as we once did for many unjust wars. We are veterans for peace. We are ready once again to answer that call. In the chat, I'll put a link to the Days of Solidarity with Palestine and some more information there. And I want to let you know that to date, in LA, Toledo, Syracuse, Binghamton, Nashville, Minneapolis, and Boston, VFP members have committed to doing those 3 things during the first week of September. And members in Buffalo, Dayton, Fort Wayne, Philly, Atlanta, New Hampshire, Asheville, Olympia, New York City, and Auburn, California are giving it serious consideration. One other thing I wanted to report as far as
and Washington, D.C.
Thank you. And one other thing I wanted to report from Special Projects is the appeal for redress. I'll put a link in the chat to the news release for that and a link to the recorded news conference that we did just a couple of days ago. So you can see the great job that our members and the people that we're working with did to promote the appeal for redress. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Casey Steinmetz, who some of us have known for a number of years and recently has come back working with us with membership. Casey, go ahead.
Thanks, Susan. Yeah, hi. It's good to see a lot of familiar faces and, hearing people in the chat. So I appreciate seeing you all today. Hi. My name is Casey, and I've been with VFP off and on for about 11 years now, both as a part-time and full-time staff. Right now, I am a contractor similar to Becky. I've been working this year really on the membership, trying to get some of our rosters going, trying to get some of those processes going again, overseeing the membership drives, overseeing the chapters and the rosters, which has been quite the task. So we're working through it. If you are a chapter contact, you're probably familiar with me from the chapter contact calls. Any email that you get from the membership is basically coming from me. So just so you know who you're talking to. And yeah, if you have any questions about your membership, you can always reach out to me at the membership@veteransforpeace.org. Yeah, if you have any questions, at all, you can also chat with me while the meeting's going on. I have a few things that I've given to Josh that are going to come out in relation to membership, but I'm going to drop kind of our call to action for a volunteer opportunity in the chat box. So if you're looking for a way to plug in, we do have an opportunity and we're doing a training on Monday. So just a shameless plug for that to invite anybody to kind of help out with a membership task that we're doing. So I know that's really vague, but essentially we're looking to engage members to basically help get more people to step up as a chapter contact. So yeah, long story short, we're just trying to get more of our chapters, growing. That's been a priority. Mike Ferner's been extremely helpful as we've been trying to get more chapters off the ground. So yeah, that's pretty much where we're at with membership. I'll pass the torch.
Thank you, Casey. And again, welcome to the Veterans for Peace annual business meeting. It's wonderful to see so many of you here, and I know not everybody's name is Ellen Davidson, so thank you for being accommodating and going back to your name. Just wanted to let you know that it takes the members of the board and all of our incredible national staff to get many of the pieces of work out and to coordinate with the chapters, with the national projects, with the working groups. Welcome again to the business meeting. It's a pleasure to witness the growth of VFP members in this organization and your extraordinary activism on behalf of peace, justice, democracy. As you've seen at the national level, we continue our work to assist in the formation of national projects and chapters, assist local work as needed, send out communications via our e-news about local, national, and international activism. We try to respond as quickly as possible to local concerns and assist in resolving issues as they come along. This past year, the National Board has continued to accept additional responsibilities and moved along board committees, as you've heard, including communications with Jerry as chair, transformative justice with Kelly Wadsworth as chair, and reforming issues and priorities throughout the year. VFP strives through the collective efforts, and I can't stress strongly enough how important it is as a collective and to focus on the team effort, having all of us work together on all of these many areas. It helps us to build the culture of peace from our experiences of war and destruction. We inform the public of the causes and costs of war. Our work includes advocating for dismantling of the war economy and continues to work to end all wars. We affirm our responsibility to work for world peace and abolish war as an instrument of national policy. Our members actively work to prevent the spread of militarism in our society, change U.S. foreign policy from endless war to diplomacy, and hopefully educate and help our national leaders to have a long-term vision of peace and justice. Our members believe the most important work we have to do is to end war and to continue our work for peace. We live in the most unsettling, disturbing, destructive times, and yet despite all obstacles, our organization continues to move along dynamically because of the dedication and determination of you, our members. You show the proud veteran voice for peace in our country, in our world, through national projects that depict the deleterious impact of climate from U.S. militarism and the war industrial complex. You show your courage and determination for the values of VFP through the work for peace in Gaza, Ukraine. The Golden Rule travels through the Northwest these days, bringing messages of solidarity and peace. You show it through your hard work to save the VA for veterans' care and prevent privatization through corporate interest. You show it through your activism in the streets for peace. In 2023, Mike Ferner was selected by the VFP board to be interim director as we reorganize staff roles and responsibilities to ensure our building a path toward a strong and vibrant veteran voice for peace. Mike worked with us as national director until May 2024, and then requested we hire an executive director so that he could continue as director of special projects. Until we hire an executive director, those responsibilities have been allocated to both national staff and members of the board. So bear with us. We are doing our best to continue functioning again as a team. In January 2024, as you've just heard, we hired Casey as membership coordinator. During the spring and early summer, we continued to reorganize the national office, defining staff roles and responsibilities. Hired full-time communications director. I had hoped that Chris Smiley would be with us today to show you the incredible work that he's been doing and the outreach through social media. Despite our small staff, the office produces, and thank you, Becky, VFP e-news of chapter and project actions and announcements. We continue to hold open and public monthly board meetings that encourage attendance of members, listens to members' concerns, and maintains transparency of our proceedings. And thank you, Paul Cox, for your extraordinary minutes of the meetings. The month after they are approved, they then are public on our website. In February 2022, the executive committee reviewed our national bank account. That's 2.5 years ago. At that time, we were just able to meet payroll for the national staff for the following 2 weeks. We called on you, our members, supporters, and donors to contribute and keep us functioning, and developed a financial plan to move us through 2022. One of our active board members raised money through a substantial grant to help put some money back into our savings account. And you can refer to the board minutes of April and May 2022. As a result of the budget and recommendations from the Finance Committee, the board made major changes to the budget that were accepted and will be discussed by Mike Tork. Today, we consistently track our finances, and we have over $180,000 in operating savings and restricted accounts. We have transferred our money, the checking and savings, to Amalgamated Bank. And the importance of Amalgamated was founded by Amalgamated Clothing Workers of America nearly 100 years ago. It is considered the bank for working people. SEIU remains the largest shareholder. Requests from other organizations for endorsements go through Josh Shirley, and thank you, Josh, for taking on that responsibility. When necessary, we then will process through these requests for endorsements through the XCOM and full board. We have issued VFP statements in a number of areas, most specifically on Aaron Bushnell. We support the student protest. We've denounced the allegations of foreign funding of progressive organizations, and there is a panel that will discuss what the project is doing and what threats we are dealing with. We've sent an open letter to Kamala Harris to cease fire now in Gaza, peace negotiations, and stop the sale of arms to Israel and Ukraine. Our VFP statement of purpose is clear. We are against war. We support war resistors. This past year, VFP Chapter 160 organized and led a delegation to Vietnam, headed by Paul Cox and Chuck Searcy. There were 13 people on the tour this year. It was the 9th and the first one since 2019 and the pandemic. Vietnam has recovered quite well from COVID, and tourism is beginning again. I believe there will be another tour next year, which you all may remember will be 50 years since the end of the United States war on Vietnam. Veterans for Peace has entered into a partnership with Kindred on a worldview literacy project, a self-directed community learning program exploring rebalancing life on Earth through individual learning and group work. Four Arrows introduced this project at the opening for this convention. And Kelly Wadsworth and Transformative Justice Committee will be working on the project and sending out more information as we move along. A reminder to those of you who are interested in the issues and deliberations of the National VFP Board. The monthly meetings are open. We welcome your attendance, your ideas, and concerns. The meetings are on Zoom with a regular meeting format, so all participants are seen if they wish. They are the third Saturday of the month at 12:40 Eastern Time. The Zoom link is posted on the VFP website and in the e-news. There are 5 board of director positions open this election cycle. You have until 7 days following the close of the annual business meeting to submit an application to run for the board. Thank you all for the work you do to save the planet and all living things. I'll close with speaking about the Peace Walk 2024 that was dedicated to Daniel Ellsberg and all peacemakers. Thank you to Ellen Davidson and Tara Koff for organizing a national project to walk from Maine to Washington, D.C., with Veterans for Peace members joining along the way. Its purpose, walking for the well-being of all people, for peace and an end to the threat of nuclear war and all wars, and an environment that supports all life. Ellen, do you want to show the video? Thank you.
Yeah, the people, they won't leave. What is threatening about divesting and want a piece? The problem isn't the protests, it's what they're protesting. It goes against what our country is funding. Block the barricade until Palestine is free. Block the barricade until Palestine is free. When I was 7, I learned a lesson from Cuban Eazy-E. What was it again? Oh yeah, the police. Actors and badges protecting property, and a system that was designed by white supremacy. But the people are in the streets. You can pay off Meta, you can't pay off me. Politicians who serve by any means, APAC, Kofi, and all the companies. You see, we sow fear around the land of the free, but this generation here is about to cut the strings. You can ban TikTok, take us out the algorithm, but it's too late. We've seen the truth, we bear witness. Seen the rubble, the buildings, the mothers and the children, and all the men that you murdered, and then we see how you spin it. Who gets the right to defend and who gets the right of resistance? It's always been about dollars and the color of your pigment. But white supremacy is finally on glass, screaming free Palestine to their home at last.
Thank you. We'll now go into the regular business meeting. Mike Tork, would you give the treasurer report?
Yes, I'll be glad to. Let me pull up the report or share. Let's see. All righty. There's the report. I'm not gonna, well, I'll just jump into it. Thanks to our current president, vice president, board, staff, and members, VFP is headed in a positive direction. Underscores what we can accomplish when we work together. So then the balances are right here. And to note is this is the beginning balances of 2024, and here are the current balances. And instead of reading through each one of them, you can see them there. We're checking, restricted, Zen Fund, Edward Jones, and then same with the current, except the difference being the main difference between the beginning of 2024 and where we are now is the divestment of VFP funds into a socially responsible bank. Amalgamated Bank is such a bank. Started and run by Amalgamated Clothing Workers of America in 1923. Issues that the bank cares about are workers' rights, climate justice, immigrant rights, LGBTQ rights, and gun safety, to mention a few. Currently, we have $118,963 in Amalgamated Bank between checking and CDs. And once the CDs and Edward Jones mature, and this is Edward Jones up here, once they mature, we will transfer that an additional 13,000 to Amalgamated. At some point, we would like to move all of our VFP money out of Commerce Bank checking and into amalgamated bank checking. But that is a much larger task that will take time and work. Divestment of VFP funds is an ongoing project. And kind of, to be honest, I'm surprised that this is the first VFP's actually divesting funds out of some of these banks that we were associated with. Anyways, I'm glad we're doing it. It's an ongoing project. So, you know, more to come. I'd like to thank our VFP member, Anthony Donovan, for bringing Amalgamated Bank to our attention. It's a good bank. VFP currently has a total of $223,800 in savings, CDs, and checking accounts. It's good to be on solid ground, but we need to remain vigilant and make fundraising a priority. Here's some of the things VFP supports. First of all, through the Zen Fund Awards during 2024, Zen funds were awarded to 3 VFP chapter projects for a total of $12,000. Podcast equipment for Fresno Chapter 180, support for deported veterans advocacy project, and support for the Peace Walk. So we've still got the, you know, I think about $15,000 in Zen Fund. So if chapters are interested, go on our website. There's a process for applying for funds. We love to see them being used. Another part of our support is we continue to support the Golden Rule, which is a VFP national project. The way that support actually looks is we paid for the insurance this year, which was $11,000. In 2023, we entered into an MOU, an agreement with the Golden Rule on VFP. And at that point, we said we would cover the insurance for 2023 and 2024. Well, we weren't in very good shape in 2023. So Golden Rule recognized that and graciously stepped up and paid for the insurance themselves, even though we said we would in the MOU. But in 2024, we are paying for the $11,000 insurance. We feel it's well worth it. It's an amazing project. We will be renewing that MOU at the end of this year, so more to come on that. Additional but not all support provided by VFP during 2024 includes the Palestinian Children's Fund, legal help for active duty Air Force Airman Larry Herbert's hunger strike for the children of Gaza, World Beyond War, and we also help support the delegation to Japan, Rachel's delegation. So those are just a couple of things that we've helped support. And when I say we, I mean VFP members. So these are all good projects. VFP staff. Mid-year VFP provided a well-deserved salary increase for all our staff. This is a far cry from when we were concerned if we could even make payroll. Gail Aquino is now working full-time. Her hours increased from 24 hours per week to 40. Gail has lots of experience with VFP, and this increase will provide member support and much needed help for Shelley. Beginning in 2024, as Casey already introduced herself, but Casey became the membership coordinator for VFP. She's got lots of experience with VFP. Since then, Casey has worked hard focusing on resolving many persistent issues and problems around membership. She's developed the plan for moving forward and addressing these issues, and she even shared some of that in the chat, so check it out. Budget. Over the last few years, we managed to trim our budget. Shelley Rocket and Paul Cox played an important role in that work. Both of them are eagle eyes, and they're always cutting our budget whenever they can. Normally, creating the budget is the responsibility of the executive director. However, given several staff changes, I was asked to create the 2024 budget. It was an enormous task. Believe me, that's an understatement. But one I'm glad I did. I now have a much better understanding of VFP finances. Hopefully, I won't need to create one in 2025 because we will have a permanent executive director. But if I need to, I will. The budget, which includes up-to-date, and I'm going to share this after I get done this report, but the budget, which includes up-to-date actuals, is shared with the board during every board meeting. The Finance Committee, which is Paul Cox, Ellen Davidson, and myself, closely monitor the budget, ensuring we stay on track. And I'll put this in the chat, my email address, any current member who can request a copy of the budget by emailing me at vfptreasurer@gmail.com, and I will put that in the chat, my address. Here's some other things that we're involved with. It's not a part of these aren't a part of the budget. These are in the restricted funds area. We monitor them. And when I say we, I mean Shelley monitors them very closely. But I don't need to read all of these, but these are all projects that we support either by tracking their finances or other ways that we can show support, advertising their work or getting the word out on their work, etc. But you can see there's quite a few of them. There's 14 of them there. Some of them are more active than others, but again, it's something we keep an eye on. So that's that. I will stop sharing this, and then I will go through the budget quickly. Like I said, this is something I share with all board members before every board meeting. But I want our members to see it. So this is what it looks like. You've got what actually happened in 2023, what I budgeted for in 2024, and these are the actuals for 2024. So there's 3 columns there for each month. It's up to date. I'm always a month behind, but I've got the actuals for July. So the top part above this line here is all revenue. The bottom part is all expenses. And then at the bottom, of course, I've got the totals. This is 2023 for January total expenses, total income, a negative, etc. The green one, again, is what I budgeted for. And then the yellow one, this one is what actually happened. So for January, I budgeted us being minus 7,000. We actually we had 10,693. So there's a positive difference of about 17K. I'd rather be safe than sorry. But again, it goes, there's the totals on the bottom, goes through July. I think that's about it. But you can look at each line item. There's a lot of them, a whole lot of them, believe me. So that's it. Like I said, I'm going to put my address in the chat. Any member that wants to see this budget, I'm more than happy to share it with you. Just let me know. And then I've got one more share about the budget. Excuse the title here, but I wanted to kind of illustrate why it's so difficult to come up with a budget. And yes, those were my sentiments when I was making this chart. But the idea here is wild swings from month to month on all of these things. So creating a budget for VFP wasn't easy, but I'm glad I did it. I understand a lot better now, and I will stop the share. That's it.
Thank you, Mike. Chris Smiley, are you with us? And could I ask you to talk about communications and outreach? I've seen some messages going back and forth in the chat, and I think it would be great to see what you've done. Thanks, Chris. And thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Susan. Yeah, hi. I was able to get into the meeting. I am on my phone though. I wasn't able to go on my computer, so I can't pull up the reports, but I did post it in the chat and they will be distributed as well. But just to mention, we're continuing our great work using social media, which is the new media of today. Most folks are starting to switch away from cable television and newspapers. So this is the new media, and we've been able to really experience the exponential growth that we need to get up to that point where VFP should be with other organizations and other movements. I just posted in the chat, for example, Larry Hebert's hunger strike was a really big thing that we were able to push, and it got over 2 million views just on our page alone. We were able to connect him immediately with media outlets that reached out to me on Twitter. So that was a really big thing to get the Veterans for Ceasefire movement in the limelight. And yeah, I just want to, shout out to Mike Ferner and Shelly and everybody that's worked with me to really help modernize VFP and really get our communications going towards where we want to be. And if anyone has any questions, please email me. And thank you so much to everybody that sends me all of the great work that you all do, because that's what I'm here to do, is to showcase the amazing work that VFP has done over the years. And anything that you have as of today, or even in the past. For example, I had a great interview from Stan Levin in San Diego that I found, that I shared, that I recut and shared, and everybody just absolutely loved it, and it blew up on our Instagram page. So if you've ever been a part of any other media sources in the past, it's still so relevant, the voices of yesterday and today. So thank you so much, Susan.
Thank you, Chris. Josh Shirley has a report on membership. And then Josh, before we go to discussion resolutions, we'll ask for questions from the members. So, Josh.
All right, so we're going to provide a brief update on membership, going over our organization's work on member numbers and helping to develop our chapters. So let's see. Okay. Again. Okay, hopefully we can all see that. Okay, so yeah, the membership committee meets first Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern for those who might be interested. And yeah, before we really get any further, I just want to thank everyone on the membership committee for the work everybody's doing. Thanks to Casey Steinmetz for coming back on board. And I'd be remiss without giving a special thanks to Ken Mayers, who preceded me as membership chair, and really, did a great job with the smooth transition and helping to identify a lot of the issues that we've been working on. So thank you very much, Ken, for that and for all you do. Okay, well, so we'll start looking at some of our member numbers, right? That's probably the biggest thing here. So a basic breakdown as it stands today, little over, well, close to 2,600 current members. That means, folks who are current on their dues paying members. Then you see the breakdown there. That's about 22% of our current members are associate members, and the other 78% are veterans. So that's the breakdown there. And just to give you an idea, 3 months ago, from 3 months ago, we've had 123 new members on our rolls, and that's offset to some degree by people who have dropped off, but we'll talk about that in a minute. We've got 150 folks who are lapsed. That means that they've their dues have expired within the last year. So that's just within that 1 year time frame. And to give you an idea of that and some of the work that we've been doing in membership, about 3 months ago, that number was doubled. So we are almost doubled. So we've had a 43% reduction in lapsed members over the last 3 months. So that's decent progress. Looking at some of our membership trends since the spring. March is about when I came on as membership chair. That's also just after we rehired Casey, who came back on board, and that's been a big help. Yeah, so we've done some things since then. Let's see. Yeah, and so we're doing a decent job of bringing in new members, but one of the biggest issues is sometimes keeping those members, right? People tend to join and then not stay members. So we're trying to address that, something we've been working on, bringing in new members, but also working on those renewals. So one of the things that we've done is initiate membership drives. The idea is to do these 3 times a year. We just had one, obviously, right before the convention, mostly to get everybody qualified to come to this lovely business meeting. And Casey did a great membership push back in March that really bore a lot of fruit. And then we'll do another one towards the very end of the year. We've got the new member monthly meetings that take place. I believe that's first Mondays. I double check that. But those are good. Bringing in the new members and hearing from them. And so talking about our new member numbers for a little breakdown there, just going over the last several months. You can see we've had a decent increase in month-to-month numbers of new folks coming in. So that part has been great. You can see the breakdown there. So March, April, May, right around 60 members per month. That's not bad. And then we had a little dip in June and came back up in July, and so you see the trends there. So our numbers have continued to grow since the last convention. And especially so since the spring. Okay. And yeah, so the idea here with these new member calls, I'm sorry, one of the things that we do is initiate that we've been doing with these large increases over the last few months is trying to personally reach out to these new members, so that this way they don't just join. And I don't know if we've all had that experience, you join an organization and you never hear anything again. So, making sure that somebody from Veterans for Peace engages with them, speaks to them, gets them plugged in with a chapter and or, working group, project, committee, whatever it might be that suits their interest, right? So we're taking full advantage of them and vice versa to maximize our work here. But that's been a daunting task, right? With these larger, part of the sort of victims of our own success. We're having a lot of new members join, but we just don't have the capacity to make all these calls. So that's something that we'll talk about. And it's been going well. Some of that's been going great where that engagement has happened, but there have been some folks falling through the cracks. So that's something that we're continuing to work on. Okay, and then when it comes to chapters, right? Chapters, of course, the foundation of what VFP is and what sets us apart in many ways. Great stuff's been happening there, and there are some areas to improve on that we have also been working on there. And one of those is cleaning up our chapter contact list. And Casey kind of touched on this earlier. Just the idea that chapter contact list is up to date, it's current. That way you don't have folks, looking at that and trying to reach out to a chapter in their area and nobody's getting back to them, that kind of thing. So we're doing the best we can to sort of strengthen the reliability of that chapter network. And so that's something that's ongoing, and we're asking for some help from you all, from our members, something that Casey alluded to, and I'll talk more about that here in just a minute. Okay, and then new chapter formation, that's something that's underway. We've got a small handful of groups who are interested in or are in the early processes of forming a new chapter, some closer than others. So that's something we continue to assist with as much as possible. And earlier this year, we stood up our newest chapter, which is chapter 757 out of Hampton Roads, Virginia. I actually saw some of them out in DC in July, and very impressive. They just started, and they're already at somewhere between 35 and 40 members. So that's pretty amazing. We never get close to that out here. So that's good stuff. So similar to our new member calls that I mentioned, we want to begin doing more engagement with our chapters. So chapter call, basically the same idea that we're reaching out to chapters, we're making these calls to the folks on that contact list, and if they're not answering, finding out, basically seeing what's going on with some of these chapters that are listed, and making sure that we have good, reliable contacts, so that these new people coming in have somewhere to join and to get started working with. But this takes time. It takes people, making these calls, tracking them, and that is something that is not easy to do. And also, when we make these calls, we're asking questions. How did you come to hear about Veterans for Peace? Those kinds of things. And so we can use that as data to sort of inform us about what's been working and what hasn't been working. Quick example of that, on our most recent new members call. It was not super, and wasn't a whole lot of people. They tend to be maybe 10 to 15 people, sometimes as many as 20. Mike Ferner hosts these calls and does a wonderful job with that. But on the most recent one, there were 5 new members. All of them younger veterans, or by way of comparison, younger than myself anyway. It's all relative, I suppose. And 4 of those 5 new members all said that they joined VFP after seeing it on social media. So that's a nod to Chris Smiley and the efforts that he's been a part of. So it gives us an idea of kind of what's working, what's bringing people in. So that's something to keep in mind. So the last thing I'll talk about is just basically kind of putting out a call to action. Well, 2 things really, as Casey alluded to, getting folks to help out, and maybe someone can put our contact information in the chat, either Casey or myself. Reach out if you are a people person, detail oriented, willing to talk to folks, both existing members of our organization in the chapters, and also talking to some of these new folks who are just joining up. And making these calls, right? So we're making, on one hand, the new member calls. That's an ongoing thing that we've been doing, but we want to start also expanding that to update the chapter information as well. Okay. Yeah, and with that, I think that's about all the good stuff I have. That will conclude my membership report, and thank you everyone for all you do and for all the work of our wonderful network of chapters out there. It's inspiring to see.
Thank you, Josh. At this point, I'd like to open up the meeting to questions from the membership. Are there questions? And please raise your electronic hands, or we won't be able to figure out who's asking a question. But any questions of the reports that you've heard, or of the board or staff? And I just need to mention again to everybody that we've been able, we feel, to move along, to work together, and to become a much more visible and successful organization. Paul, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, at our last board meeting, we did not approve the minutes for the last 2 meetings, or the meeting prior to that. So we actually need to approve the last 2 board meetings.
Yes, we were going to do that at our next board meeting. This we have 100 people at. So if we could just hold that and do it at the next month's meeting. Thank you. Are there any questions of the board, of the treasurer's report, of the membership report for anybody? No questions? Okay, folks.
No, there's some. There are some. Robert Williams.
Hi. So I don't know where to find the hand. The icon to raise the hand. So I had to raise my actual hand. My question was concerning the treasurer's report that Mike Turk gave. He didn't mention how that works. So I've been donating money to that goes to Pat Elder and military poisons. I've been doing that through VFP, and but that wasn't mentioned in his treasurer's report. So I just wanted to if he could explain how that's been unfolding.
Mike, do you want to, or I can? Because that was a special restricted account that was set up with Rachel Clark and the peace speaking tour to Japan, and your money goes into that account. And Shelley is the expert on that, but that was an account that has been recently formed, and that's where the money goes. You want to know how much is in it?
No. I thought I also donated to his trip to England.
That I don't know.
He was there earlier this month.
The account that we have is one that was set up through Rachel Clark with Pat Elder and with the project that they're working on. I'm not aware of a specific account set up for Pat Elder. Shelley, are you with us? We'll check and we can get back to you. Okay, but my understanding, since I also work really closely with Rachel, is that that's where the money goes. We'll get back to you on that. Ken Mayers, what a pleasure to see you. Welcome.
Yeah, first I'd like to thank Mike Tork for the terrific job he does as treasurer. Having served as treasurer myself for 5 years back in the early part of the century, I can really appreciate what that takes. But Mike, I have one request of you, and that is when you do those summary reports and you show what's in each of the accounts, at the bottom of that, could you please put a total for all accounts?
Yes, I'll be glad to do that, Ken, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
On Pat Elder, if you give a contribution directly to his military poisons account or whatever it is, that's not going to show up in the Veterans for Peace. If you give it via Veterans for Peace as a donation for Veterans for Peace, it shows up in the total of restricted accounts.
Thank you.
Yes, real quick, that's a good point, Ken. And if folks weren't aware, I don't include restricted accounts except for that little last summary of my report. So I didn't budget restricted accounts. But Shelley monitors all that stuff, and I'm sure she knows. We keep very close track of restricted funds.
And just a reminder to everybody that these reports that were given at today's meeting, the treasurer's report and the membership report will be available when these minutes are approved. Steve Morse.
Yeah, just to clarify, I think there were like 14 projects listed, national projects and such. And I just want to clarify that for any of those projects, you could give money into those as restricted accounts, and you could do a monthly or quarterly, set up a monthly or quarterly contribution to any of those, in addition to VFP as a whole. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
You have to identify that I'm sorry, Mike.
Yes, that's correct. Here they are. Here's all 14 of them. And yes, Shelley monitors that. So if you send a check in for Save Our VA, it will go in that account and it won't be used for anything else. So yes, we watch that closely.
And also monthly or quarterly.
Yes, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Steve. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Steve, could you take your hand down unless you want to ask another question?
I have my hand up.
Sorry, Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I couldn't get on because there was over 100 people. I just like Mike to run through his whole report again. No, just really, just give a quick summation, that we're in good shape and how good a shape or whatever. We're not in the red anymore. Just a brief, update.
Again, the full report will be attached to the minutes and publicly available. But Mike Tork, do you want to talk about our totals quickly?
Yeah, quickly. We're doing good, Barry. Not great, but we're doing well. We need to keep track of things and be vigilant. But right now we have in our savings, checking, and CDs, we have, I had it, $223,000.
Wow, great.
So
great.
yeah. Well, we're looking good. My budget, we're actually doing better than what I had budgeted up through July. And when I say better, we're about $47,000 ahead of what I budgeted, which is good. We're in the black. I think we have I don't want to jinx ourselves, but I think we have a strong possibility of ending in the black without going into our savings. So yeah, Barry, we're good.
Fantastic. Great work.
Thank you both. Phil Jocelyn, I saw your hand raised.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a suggestion around the membership recruitment and membership retainment. I think the Golden Rule Tour really did a whole lot for getting Veterans for Peace out there and on the map. And I think that if we really want to revive chapters and pull new people in, that it would be a great thing to do tours, right? I mean, the thing with the Golden Rule Tour is the logistical demands probably did not allow for a great, the kind of outreach that might have resulted in new members. Some of it did, some of it didn't. But if we would do a tour of, say, somebody from Gaza or somebody from Ukraine or, somebody from the war-making industry, talking about what some of the issues that we're dealing with and getting what we're doing out there, into the public eye. I think we should think about that. I mean, it would involve a commitment of funds, to tour people around the country, but I think it would definitely be worth it.
Thank you, Phil. Doug Rawlings, you have your hand raised, and a special thank you to Doug for organizing the poetry session last night. It was beautiful, extraordinary, and showed so much of the talent and feelings of members of VFP. So Doug, thank you.
Oh, there. I'm unmuted now?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. I want to bet that I'm the only person at this meeting right now who was at the first VFP meeting in 1985 in a basement church in Portland, Maine. And I think there might have been 20, 25 of us there. I don't know. And to see it right now, I'm just so pleased and impressed by the work that you guys are doing, Susan and the board and stuff. It's just really, really terrific. So I make a motion that we take $200,000 out of that $230,000 and buy a limousine for Susan Schnall to drive around in.
Forget it. It ain't happening.
Oh, I see a second from Susan. Any conversation? No conversation. Okay. No,
well, we've already committed to buying a corporate jet.
No. It's a helicopter. We're going to be dropping flyers out of it on military bases. Thank you, Doug.
Sir, no, sir. Yes. I used to show that movie, Sir, No, Sir, to my peace studies class at the university, and they loved it. Susan has a major role in that. And the last thing I want to say, though, actually, I think one of the impressive things about Veterans for Peace is how we are using the arts to make political statements, not just poetry, but painting and music, reaching out to young people through the arts and focusing on the environment is just an incredibly good idea. And you guys are doing a great job at that. So thanks very much. Keep it up.
And I think we want to say thank you to you, Doug, for forming the organization all those many years ago. It's extraordinary to me, and I've just been a member for about 15, 20 years, but it is extraordinary to see the evolution and the continued growth and interest in Veterans for Peace. So thank you.
Yeah, I just like to, okay, I will say one more thing. There were 5 of us when we formed that group, right? And we just said, we said, well, what the hell? We had no idea that it would become an international organization and have the power that it's got right now. So thank you all for continuing that good work. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you. Moji.
Hi.
Do you have my voice?
We have your voice, but not you.
Well, I am sorry, for some reason my camera is not working. I am in Boulder, Colorado. I am a associate member. I'm an Iranian American Sufi monk. And regarding the reason I raised my hand was because the issue of having a tour. I had a speaking tour last spring, as a result of which we have now 8 chambers of compassion, in the same way that corporations have chambers of commerce. We, peace and justice and human rights and environment and whatever good cause activists, we need to have a chamber of compassion that is called everything, that's called the same everywhere. And in that process, I would be more than happy to join with other VFP brothers or sisters on a speaking tour so that we can talk about the need for chambers of compassion and why veterans are critical, because veterans cannot be accused of being unpatriotic. So it's important, the Veterans for Peace, to be a lot more active in terms of promoting peace from a, from a vantage point of people who cannot be, accused of being un-American. And I'm more than happy to join you with, I'm more than happy to join in a physical tour if you are organizing it. Sorry if I talk too much.
Oh, thank you so much. What a lovely idea. And thank you, Phil, for your suggestion. So we will keep that in our notes and reach out to both of you. Thank you. Shelley.
I apologize, Susan. I had to deal with a technical issue and I didn't hear your question about the member who donated to the Pat Elder Fund.
Right. That was a question about where the money went and how it's part of the restricted funds.
Well, that money goes directly to Rachel and Pat. And I did show where that person did, his money was designated to go to Rachel's fund.
Thank you. Thank you, Shelley.
Okay.
Are there other questions? Does anybody else see any more hands?
Woody has his hand up. Woody.
Woody, come join us.
Can you hear me?
Hi, Woody.
Can
We
you hear
can see
me?
you. Yes, we can
All
see you.
right, good.
We can hear
All
you.
right. This is just a weakness on my part. I was probably sneezing or coughing, but I didn't hear the total membership. And I can't read, so I can't look at the document. Does anybody remember the number of the total membership?
Yes, Josh.
Current dues paying members at 2,589.
Okay, thank you. The other thing I
Yes.
wanted to bring to everybody's attention, one of our members, Bob Saberi, is currently in the West Bank. He's a Vietnam vet.
Yeah.
And in Vietnam, and he's been there for the last 2.5 months. He's been there, and this is his, I think, his 4th visit, working with the Jewish Voices for Peace and the Combatants for Peace, which we used to bring to our conventions, if you remember, or probably you don't, but I do. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention because I think it's just a terrific thing that he's doing, standing between the settlers who are just raising hell with the Palestinian people living in the West Bank. Anyway, I think he would be a good board member if he ever gets back to the United States alive, okay?
Thank you, Woody.
That's all I got.
Thank
I'm
you.
just a voice from the very distant past.
We appreciate your voice always. Thank you. Cara Bissell.
Thank you very much, Susan. I just wanted to ask if the recordings that have been given this morning here in the business meeting could be made available where we can get them. I don't know if it's on the website, it could be on the VFP website or otherwise, so we could easily show them for our members in the chapter that aren't here. And elsewise, of course, they're really great to show wherever we can.
I will put them all in the chat right now in the next few minutes. We'll take this.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So the answer is yes. Thank you. Jeff Roy. Jeff, are you here?
He's on mute.
Jeff? Thank you, Mike.
Can't hear you, Jeff.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now.
Okay. Sorry. I'm doing three different things at once. Just to comment on what the past person had said about Bob Sabiri in Hebron or south of Hebron. I'm in regular contact with him. If anyone is interested to know more about what he's doing and they're not in contact, get a hold of me.
Thank you, Jeff.
You bet.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions, or we can move on to?
Ann Wright has her hand up.
And
Okay.
Tarek is raising his hand, but we can't raise the hand because I'm the host.
Got it. So
Wright has her hand up too.
I'm sorry, Anne, and who else?
Tarek.
Just Ann and Tarek.
Yeah, got you. Thank you, Ellen. Anne, you want to go ahead?
Sure, yeah, and just to follow up with old Bob, he was a crew member on the Gaza flotilla boat last year in 2023, and he's already been on the flotilla boat this year in 2024. So old Bob's really doing good. And thanks for Vets for Peace for highlighting all of the issues for Gaza, which we'll hear about tonight. And then tomorrow we'll do a program on the Gaza flotilla itself. Thank you. And for all the Veterans for Peace that came to Istanbul and all other places in support of the flotilla. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Tarek.
Hi, thanks for all your great work, all of you. About 3 months ago, actually fully 3 months ago, I put in a proposal to VFP. You want to interrupt me? Okay, I put in a proposal to VFP to help us facilitate keeping the Peace and Planet newspaper going and making it more available to the chapters and so forth and so on. It was a fairly extensive proposal. And I was wondering if there's any resolution on that, because I have not heard any resolution on that. My voice is going, so that's it.
So, right, and I'll just say, as you know, because we've been speaking, could I just finish? So we've been speaking the XCOM, and we've been working on an MOU, and we will get back to you. I think you all have looked at it, and we will speak again after the convention. I apologize to all of you who are here and may have sent the board questions or proposals. We have spent an extraordinary amount of time over the past week or week and a half in pulling together the convention. So thank you to all of you for being here and for being understanding of the enormous work that is going on. I tried at the beginning to explain that we certainly have a smaller staff and everybody is doing a lot of work, an extraordinary amount of work. If there is something that is waiting to be answered, please understand that we're all under a significant amount of pressure. We wanted to make sure that we provided you all with the important financial status of the organization and where we are now. So if there are any questions, we'll be glad to deal with it, Tarek, and all of us understand how important Peace and Planet News is both to this organization and to the work and the organizing that we do all the time. We certainly want to keep it going, and I apologize. I thought that we could hold it until after the convention. So if there's any misunderstanding, here's the answer. We will talk next week. Thank you for your patience. At this point, I think we're almost running out of time, and we do need to discuss resolutions and bylaws. So I'm going to turn this meeting back again to Josh. Thank you.
All right, so we'll turn to the resolutions and bylaws. Hopefully these will be pretty straightforward. So we'll have 5 items for our review this time around, 2 bylaw amendments and 3 resolutions. So I'll put the items up for review in a moment. We'll share screen and look at those. The way it works, the rules allow for up to 3 members speaking for and against, but if we don't have an equal number of for and against, then we will skip that part, right? And just go straight to a vote. After reviewing, of course, the item in question. Okay, so before we start, I just want to thank the Resolutions and Bylaw Committee, which is myself and Paul Cox and Stephen Zolman for the work they've been doing and helping us get these out. And I also want to make sure I thank someone who's done a lot of really important behind the scenes work, and that's Bob Krasinski. Bob Krasinski, who was for many years the Resolutions Committee chair and has been on the committee for many years and really helped me sort of find my way on that committee and some of the detail-oriented work that it involves. So thank you to Bob. Okay, so like I said, we have 5 items to review, looking at all manner of things from interest in avoiding nuclear war, mitigating the effects of militarism on the climate crisis, as well as the work of our chapters. So we'll begin with bylaws. All right. Yeah, we'll begin with bylaws. So our bylaws are the highest law for the organization. A change, of course, can only be made by a vote of full members, announced at the annual convention. And because they set out only the most fundamental rules, they should only be altered when necessary. And so they do not need frequent correction. So the first one we're going to look at, see here. There we are. Okay, hopefully we can see that all right. Okay, bylaw amendment 2024-1. This was submitted by the Seattle chapter, and this deals with Article 12, sections 1 and 2, which it involves the charters of new chapters. So essentially what this would do, if we all just go ahead and pull up the rationale here, which is sort of the explanation behind it. So James Williams, Pete Schoonmaker, and Marty Coons all submitted this one. So the idea here is to basically streamline the process for chapters to form specifically on college and university campuses. So this one is pretty straightforward. All it really does is it adds language. There's no language being taken away here. What this would do is Add a section, section 1A, coming right after section 1, and the area in bold would be the new language. It would allow for charters at chapters to be granted, as soon as they meet the minimum requirement for student organizations on that campus. All right. The other thing that it would do is it would automatically the 25-mile radius rule that's in the bylaws would not apply to chapters at colleges and universities. So the idea here is this would facilitate campus chapters from forming and making it that much easier. That's essentially it. So I should also mention that all of the bylaws and resolutions, including this one that we're going to talk about, have all been approved by the relevant committees and by the board by a majority vote, and they're all endorsed by the board as well. So now we put it to the membership. At this time, is there anyone speaking? I'll ask this: is there anyone speaking against this bylaw amendment? Probably the easiest way to.
Josh, you need to, today we'll be discussing these and maybe a straw vote. I don't know if we've got a setup for straw votes, but they will not be passed until the November election.
Right. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, that's important to understand that these are not actually, these do not become official until the ballots go out later in the year.
And the straw polls are set up.
But I guess the question is if anybody is against it, and if not, we can just move through this.
All right, if there's nobody speaking against, correct me if I'm wrong, nope. Then we can go ahead and put up the straw poll, Ellen, when you're ready.
Okay.
Friendly amendment? Is it too late for that?
Okay. I just want to say that for purposes of being able to find people in the participants list, I've made all of the board members co-hosts, which means they are unable to vote. So if you want a vote that's recorded, you could give it to Paul later to put in his totals. So it looks like nobody's voting anymore, so we'll.
Friendly amendment time?
Okay, so it looks like that that overwhelmingly passed.
Somebody asked if it was time for a friendly amendment, and I want to just say no, right? This is not. You might want to address that, Josh.
Oh, you mean to submit an amendment now? No. No, all of that, there's a process for all of that. It has to be done, in advance and reviewed by the committees and all of that. So it's an annual process. So if anybody has an idea for a resolution or a bylaw change, it's a good idea to get that. Go ahead and contact us, and we can work with you on getting that ready for our next convention. But it's an annual process that happens once a year.
Paul, do you have the results for the notes?
Yeah, well, no, yes and no, but the other thing is that we cannot change these at this point. They go up for an up or down vote. However, if you would like to submit a statement in an opposition or in favor of it, those statements can be summarized in when the real ballot goes out. So you would submit a statement to Josh or to Shelley on this particular item.
Thanks, Paul. All right, I think we're ready to move on to the next one. I just X out of that poll there, Ellen, or how does that work?
I don't have it, so I don't know. It's not in front of me, I guess.
All right, I think that. So now we're moving on to. Oh, it just popped back up on my screen. I don't know if everybody's seeing that.
Yeah, it did.
Okay, all right,
I'm
well, we'll
gonna-
move on to bylaw amendment, number 2 for this year. Okay, this was submitted by Jim Ryan on behalf of the Climate Crisis and Militarism Projects Steering Committee. This one is pretty straightforward. This is just going to amend our statement of purpose to include one additional line. Okay, and it basically looks like this. So the language in bold here is the additional language in question. So right after the long list of things in our statement of purpose, after abolishing war as an instrument of national policy, this would add the language to promote a sustainable and peaceful world. And that's it. And the rationale there, of course, the idea that 80% of people globally want to do more, want our governments to take more action on climate change. So it's an incredibly popular idea. And the idea here is to make sure that VFP is reflecting that. So is there anyone who is speaking against this this bylaw change? And I can't see the chat, so someone let me know if that is the case. So if there is nobody to speak against it, then there's no need for anyone to
How
speak
do
for
I
it.
see the language? It's not appearing on my screen. I think I closed the ballot window rather than just letting you close it. So it's no longer available to me anyway.
So I haven't put up the ballot for this one yet. The other one is closed. So the ballot hasn't gone up for this one yet. It
So
will in a
hopefully
second.
we're all seeing this, which is just the language of the bylaw change is all that's showing now. So if there's no one speaking against, thus no one speaking for, I think we can go ahead and put up the straw poll, Ellen, at any time. All right, the poll is up. Go ahead and start voting.
I voted, but it disappeared before I could submit it.
Yeah, I'm only seeing 11 responses.
Yeah, it disappeared before I could respond as well.
I'm gonna
Start it over.
all right, so I'm starting it over. Continue. It's I don't
Is
know
it
why.
possible, is it possible that because Josh is sharing his screen, that your share won't?
No. No, it went up and then it ended itself when it felt like it. All right, I'm going to duplicate it. And here we go.
Okay, looks like it's back
The
up. So if you
duplicate is
voted on this
working.
if you voted on this just a moment ago, you can go ahead and do it again. We're redoing the vote for this one. So this would add promoting a sustainable and peaceful world to our statement of purpose.
I'm not getting the voting screen, Josh.
See the voting machine either.
If you voted already, you won't see the screen.
Well, there it is.
Okay.
Well, it looks like it's over. I didn't get to vote.
Yeah, it's hang on a second.
It's still going, right, Ellen? Oh, okay.
No,
I
think it's stopped because I think somehow when it gets to more than half of the participants in the meeting, it stops. And I
Well,
don't
it's
know why
okay.
it does that. It doesn't give us a very accurate
I'm good.
all right. Okay, well,
Well, it gives us an idea of,
yeah,
you know,
I've had this problem before and I thought I fixed it, but
maybe there's a setting.
yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to
Well, the good news is this is not an official ballot or anything. This is just to
yeah.
get a preliminary sort of survey of the attending members and make sure that this is
Yeah.
okay to put on the ballot for later this year.
Josh, since it's informal that way, I'm wondering if it would, in the interest of time, just ask if people are going to vote no to register that, either in the chat or by a show of hands, so that we don't have to spend time trying to figure out the technical way of voting.
That might be the way to go.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. We know we have 96 people on the call, so ask
All right.
how many people object and how many abstain, and
Or we
there's your-
could use the poll and only vote if you're no or an abstention, and then the rest are assumed to be yes.
Well, we already saw that it was 98% yes, so I think we're
Right.
good to go.
All right, so
right.
I guess we will move on to the next one. Fair to say that the membership overwhelmingly approves of both of those bylaw changes. All right, so next we'll move on to resolutions, which are statements of intent of VFP. They document our positions over the years on a variety of matters. We have 3 this year to vote on out of the 4 that were submitted. So we'll start with all right, our first resolution of 2024. This was submitted by by Jerry Condon on behalf of the No Nukes Working Group, the China Working Group, as well as the Korea Peace Campaign. Okay, it deals with a pretty broad topic in that it is not limited to one geographical area necessarily, but calls for an end to our insane nuclear posture. So being that the United States is actively engaged in multiple wars of choice, including in Ukraine, the ongoing genocidal war in Palestine, and preparing for war against China and North Korea. We see all of the nuclear armed nation to include the US, Russia, Israel, China, North Korea, etc. And of course, many experts believe the world is closer to nuclear war than at any time since the Cuban Missile Crisis, 90 seconds to midnight on the atomic clock, if I'm not mistaken. And the idea is that, in this era of nuclear proliferation, threatening all life on Earth, not to mention the climate catastrophe, VFP urges the U.S. government to do all of the following: supporting ceasefire and negotiations to end the onslaught in Gaza as well as in Ukraine, end the provocations against China in the Korean War, sign and ratify the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, lead on international negotiations to eliminate nuclear weapons, and adopt a peaceful foreign policy. So that is the resolution. All right, at this time, I'll ask, and again, I can't see the chat, so maybe Paul or somebody else can just let me know what's happening there. If you can, if you are speaking against this resolution, please let that be known. And Willie, I see your hand up. Are you speaking against the resolution, or did you have something else? We can't hear you. There you go.
Actually, I have a question. Having served on the resolutions committee, I remember that even right after you became chair, we ran through our resolutions, and one of the things that we came up with for submitting resolutions, as I recall, was that they be actionable. And if so actionable, what are the expectations to do each of these bullet points that is being placed on VFP? What is that? How does that translate? Because I see them as something we can certainly support, and we're all in favor of them. I am, but I don't see them as really, other than feeling that way, them being like actionable other than our regular work. And that's all I got.
Well, I think it props up, it's a statement of intent. It's a statement of intent. This is something that we, goes along with, for example, our position statements. And these are also useful to use, I guess you could say, as talking points for chapters and different things. So yeah, it's not calling on any specific action. In fact, that would sort of disqualify it from being a resolution. If it called on national to do some thing or provide funds or things like that. But this is like I said, an organizational, statement of intent. Anyone have any other comments against the resolution? I see Dan Shea. We see your hand up. Do you have a comment against?
No, I actually for.
Okay.
And trying to, I was just recently in the Philippines on a peace mission with Bayan. It's another organization that is really dealing with these similar issues because they're facing possible conflicts with U.S. military and with China with the Asian pivot. So their real question is, and I'll be speaking with them on the 20th, dealing with the issues of fear of nuclear confrontations that could be happening. So when Willie is asking, how can we be actionable? What these resolutions do, they actually let people know what our position is, and that they can contact us with these various committees. And I think it's really important that we can take these resolutions to these organizations and say, we are in solidarity with you, and help build a mass movement. Because if we're going to change anything, we're going to need a mass movement to do it. So I really think this is an very important resolution, because we are facing an existential threat of a nuclear war. And that's so I'm in favor of it, yes.
All right, thanks, Dan. That was very well said. Jeff Berger, I see your hand up.
Thank you. I'm just commenting that the language is very weak. There's not going to be a ceasefire, for instance, in Gaza without ending arms shipments to Israel. I would have liked to have seen language included in the resolution that stated that. That's all.
All right, thank you. Michael Wong.
If you look back at a lot of our past resolutions that we've had in Veterans for Peace, they don't state particular actions that the resolution calls for. It is pretty much a position statement that, Veterans for Peace supports this position. And it is, like Dan Shea said, things that different ones of us in Veterans for Peace can then use to take to different venues and promote that as our position, and work in coalition with other organizations with that official statement that that's our position. So it's very useful in that sense. And that's why in the past we've had so many similar resolutions where they're basically position statements, not specific in terms of what actions they're calling for.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, and we can hear, I think, from one more. Doug Ryder.
Actually, it's Vicky Ryder, but that's okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. We're both here and we both agree that I think the language might be unnecessarily restrictive in that it doesn't allow for mention of other areas of, in hot spots where wars are imminent. Or looking at Syria, looking at other places, Yemen and so on, what's going on in other places. rather than just limiting it to these few, which were the ones that happened to be the ones that the working groups were focusing on, that there either be some language added to say, and as needed others, or not limited to, or something there, so that we have room to expand. Otherwise, we're going to find ourselves doing the same resolution for every war that the U.S. chooses to embark on.
All right, thanks for
We
that,
are
Vicky.
in favor of the resolution. I want to be clear on that.
Okay, thanks, Vicky. Okay, I mean, that's I think we've sort of reached the limit of folks for and against, although I failed to keep an accurate count. I think we heard sort of 3 criticisms of the bylaw and then 4. I'm not positive on that.
Kara has a hand up.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Kara.
Just want to please ask you to keep the voting screen up as long as you can. I'm helping Alice in the other room, and it's going away before I can get to her.
Okay, let me explain again. I think what the problem is for some reason, the poll has decided that once it hits a majority of the room of how many people are in the Zoom meeting for one position, it's shutting down. I'm not able to control it. So what we decided was a solution, since most of these resolutions people seem to be for, is that we're going to put them up, and the only people who should vote are the against and the abstentions, and other people will be assumed to be for. Because otherwise the poll shuts itself down as soon as it hits a deciding majority for any position, and I can't figure out why.
Okay, so at this time, let's go ahead and do the vote. So as Alan said, she'll put up the straw poll. So the assumption is that it's being voted for. If you are abstaining or voting against, please register that in the chat.
I'm seeing a lot of yes votes, and the more yes votes we have, the sooner the poll is going to shut down. Please only vote no or abstain.
If it's a yes vote, it's
a yes
assumed.
vote, we're going to assume it.
Yep.
And we have a total of 81 voters in this poll.
So any no's or abstentions, go ahead and lodge those.
Okay, so nothing is moving now. So I'm gonna.
So I'm seeing 7 abstentions. I don't know if there are more in the chat. But it looks like it's overwhelmingly passing.
Yeah, so 7 abstentions, and that would be 74 assumed yeses, and the board can't vote because they were all on.
Right. All right. So it's fair to say the attending membership approves this to be advanced to the official ballot later in the year, where we will all have a chance to lodge an official vote. Okay, we can move on. I'll X out of that. All right, moving along now to our second of our 3 resolutions. And there was a resolution 2, if anyone's wondering, but it was withdrawn. So hence the numbering being a little out of order here. All right, so 2024-3. This involves, this resolution came as a result of our last board meeting when we saw that no resolutions were submitted on the topic of Gaza or the U.S. support for Israel's crimes against the Palestinian people. So given the events of the past 10 months that has had the world transfixed, not to mention the theme of the convention this year, we decided that as a board, we would draft a resolution making VFP's intentions here clear. And there is no sort of pre-existing resolution on this matter. So this is what we put together. So big thanks to my fellow board members for coming together and making this work, and especially to Ellen Davidson for your valuable input. Essentially, it calls for a ceasefire in Gaza and ending the Palestinian genocide. It mentions the ICJ findings And the plausible case of genocide. It mentions the disproportionate destruction in Gaza, the starvation, the withholding of aid, collective punishment, not to mention all the crimes going on in the occupied West Bank. It's very important to include that in there as well. It mentions really all the stuff from the Terry Lodge letter that we've been distributing around the country, right? All the specific ways that the U.S. is in violation of various laws and policies and foreign treaties and whatnot. It also mentions the risks for regional and global escalation, up to and including, all sorts of irreversible consequences. And it also recognizes the plight of hostages, calling on both sides to release both the Israeli, but also the thousands of Palestinian hostages being held as well. Therefore, VFP is urging the U.S. government to leverage its influence on the following: a total and permanent ceasefire, an end to the state terrorism in the West Bank, an end to the arms shipments, a massive influx of humanitarian aid, recognition of full human rights for Palestinians under international law, and it's calling for negotiations to provide a lasting solution, insisting on self-determination, freedom, dignity, and equal rights for all people from the river to the sea. It also calls for reparations for Palestinians that have been long affected by the ongoing destruction. It also mentions our full support for U.S. service members who conscientiously object. We heard from some of them last night. It also calls for the prosecution of U.S. officials and corporate officers in the military-industrial complex who have aided and abetted this genocide through their actions. All right, and that's the resolution on Gaza and ending the Palestinian genocide. And I'll leave it here at the therefore be it resolved. Okay, at this time, is there anyone speaking against this resolution?
I see Steve Morse with a hand up.
All right, Steve, do you have a comment in opposition?
Well, not exactly. Everything that's written, I support. I would support these additions, supporting refuseniks in Israel along with U.S. service members. That's one thing, and supporting groups of Palestinians and Israelis working together for ceasefire and against the occupation, such as Combatants for Peace, standing together, and bereaved families. I think that would have been good additions. But I'm fine with everything written.
Yeah, I totally hear you on that, Steve. Just and something I maybe should have mentioned at the beginning: resolutions are limited to a 300-word maximum. That's so we're it's tough sometimes to make that. We had exactly that same discussion when the board put this together. There's a laundry list of things we'd like to be in here, and so as a result, we crafted a longer position statement that is up on our website, and Ellen and Jerry Condon and a lot of other folks contributed to that. So that's a more expanded overview of some of those things. But thank you, Steve. Your point is well taken. These are the things that we sort of boil down to the real bare bones basics, bare minimum things. But yes, there are a lot of things that it probably does not mention. Thank you. All right. Any comments again against this resolution? And if there are not any, let's go ahead and
people remember only no's and abstentions here.
All right, so Ellen is putting up the straw poll. So the assumption is that it's a yes vote, and we're dealing with a relatively, not a huge number of folks, so this shouldn't be too difficult. So if you're a yes vote, there is no need to vote yes. If you are a no or an abstention, though, please hit that button.
So I'm not seeing any.
All right, so we have so far 0 no votes and 0 abstentions.
So far, let me know when to call it. It's been up 45 seconds.
All right.
Okay, I think,
All right, this should be, I would hope, pretty
I think the
uncontroversial.
people have not spoken. That is. I'm kidding. All right.
All right, so if there's nobody voting against or commenting against, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, this way to do the straw poll of not having people vote if they're voting for it and voting and just voting against it or abstaining is not a good process. So we need to fix this next time around.
Absolutely.
I agree. I agree. And I tried to test it, but it was hard to test it by myself. And I will get to the bottom of it for next year, and I apologize.
Yeah, I probably something as simple as a setting that needed, but
It
now that it's
was,
underway,
it
there's not
was
much
a
we can do about
setting,
it.
and I didn't see it this year, so I
Yeah.
thought that with the Zoom updates, it had been eliminated.
What is our voting cohort that's presumed to have voted for this?
80.
80. Okay.
So nobody is voting no or abstain. So the fallback position is that we've got 80 votes for.
Just a reminder to everybody that the vote takes place when the ballots are sent out October, November. So this is just a straw vote. This is an old holdover from the times when we met in person and wanted to vote then. This is a major change, and maybe it's a good time for us to take a look at the bylaws and talk about changing some of the bylaws. We can do that next year. Thank you.
Yeah, this gives us some things to definitely work on pre next convention. Okay, and before we move on, I see Jim Ryan's hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to say a word about one of the resolutions that was pulled and to know what the status is. And for the rest of the folks, the resolution was to place on the VFP website banner the addition of while promoting a sustainable and peaceful world. And I was informed that the board had voted on that and it would eventually be getting onto the website. Is that still the case? And I didn't want people to be surprised when this all of a sudden showed up, so I just thought I'd bring it up now.
No, thanks, Jim. Yeah, I was hoping that would have been up prior to us meeting, but things are busy with the convention. That's in the process. That should be done. I can't imagine any later than next week. But that is underway. That is something that we'll be making that change. So it'll just be adding similar language as what we voted on earlier to the banner header on the website. But we haven't forgot, and that's on its way. Okay, I think with our imperfect means of gauging the voice of our members present, I think we can be safe to assume that we've got approximately 80 votes for in favor of this resolution. So we can move on.
Josh, this is
Yes.
Shelley.
Hi, Shelley.
I wanted to speak to the issue about changing the image on the website. It became a little bit more complicated than we expected. So we are working on it, and hopefully we'll have something soon.
All right. I understand. It's not like you've been busy lately or anything.
Well, that's true too.
All right. Thanks, Shelley, for bringing that up. Okay. All right. So that concludes the voting on that. And so we have one last final item. Okay. And this is resolution 2024-4, the final resolution that we'll be talking about today. And this one is a special one. Well, for me personally, but also for many others in the organization, and especially to the folks who submitted the resolution. It came from Jason Mazzula, along with Ann Wright and Pete Doctor on behalf of Chapter 113 in the Hawaiian Islands. So it speaks to the fact that Hawaii was a sovereign nation before it was illegally annexed by the United States back in the 1890s. It's been under the effective military occupation of the United States ever since. So yeah, it recognizes that the sovereign kingdom of Hawaii was illegally annexed. It recognizes that Veterans for Peace stands in solidarity with the people of Hawaii in their struggle for peace, dignity, human rights, protection of the environment, and the restoration of sovereignty. It mentions being burdened for so long as the unconsenting host of the U.S. military, to include the numerous issues of bases, naval exercises, and whatnot, to include the Rim of the Pacific or RIMPAC exercises that happen annually. It mentions the environmental desecration of the lands of Hawaii, to include Red Hill, and all of the constant bombardment and desecration that has been continuing for 130 years. So the resolution calls for Veterans for Peace to acknowledges that we can no longer in good conscience view Chapter 113 as a national affiliate chapter of Veterans for Peace, and it instead calls on us to recognize Chapter 113 from Hawaii as an international chapter of occupied Hawaii, thereby recognizing the sovereignty that was robbed from the Hawaiian people over a century ago. So this places Hawaii on the list of international chapters on par with our chapters in Okinawa, in Vietnam, in Mexico, and Ireland, and throughout the United States. And I would just add, this goes a long way to really sort of putting our money where our mouth is, so to speak, in terms of indigenizing or decolonizing VFP's practices, something that we talked about at length yesterday and in the Four Arrows workshop, and something that's is definitely under discussion. So yeah, this gives us a great opportunity to really make good on that issue. So at this time, is there anyone speaking against this resolution? All right, I see Ken Mayers has his hand up. And you just need to unmute, Ken. There you go.
Thank you.
You're not.
Oh,
Ken has to do it.
Sorry, having a little trouble with my headset.
No, we hear you,
here.
Ken.
Yes, this isn't really against the resolution. It's kind of an extension, not an amendment. I'd say if we pass this resolution, we can also use it as a precedent for inviting our sovereign tribal nations to become international members of Veterans for Peace.
Thanks, Ken. Then you're exactly right. That is exactly the idea here. Steve Morse.
I'm not speaking against either, but I just wanted to clarify in the last paragraph, if we make, I see how our chapters are listed with the international at the bottom, whether there had been discussion of distinction between a chapter like Ireland, which is made up of Irish people, and a chapter like Vietnam, which is not made up of Vietnamese people and stuff. I wonder if that had been talked about, or in the board, or what's up with that?
Not beyond the fact that there are obviously some important distinctions there of a foreign chapter comprised of mostly non-U.S. nationals. That's certainly the case. And then we have chapters, like you mentioned, like 160 in Vietnam, of U.S. veterans living abroad. I think that's sort of spelled out in our the bylaws, policies, and procedures and whatnot. But they're all broadly classified as international chapters, being that they're not based in the United States. All right, so I see some hands coming up here. I just want to remind people, let me just ask this, do any of you have a statement against the resolution or critical of the resolution? Okay, let's hear real briefly from Mike Marceau. Good to see you.
Hey, folks. By the way of
chapters on occupied land, wouldn't every chapter in the continental US be on occupied land and could be considered international chapters by that measure? Thank you.
Good point, Mike. Yeah, that's something to consider the implications of. Mariana.
Yeah, that's my main concern, but also I wondered if there might be some sort of like unintended consequences of this, that while I can understand that, you know, wanting to respect VFP in Hawaii, if this is assuming that's who's calling for this, that it might cause some unexpected issues with participation or tax status or something like that, you know. That's, I just, it seems a little bit odd. It seems like important to recognize all these things that are stated, but given that all the chapters are on occupied, unceded land,
yeah,
I don't like it.
All right, fair enough. And just so you know, we did kind of look into that. There are no negative implications of those kinds of things that you mentioned. This is, I suppose you could say, I mean, it's a symbolic recognition, but I mean, I think it goes beyond just being symbolic. This is a very important acknowledgement. But as far as legal questions, tax status, those kinds of things, there's no issue there. All right, I see Kara.
Yes, going along with the same kind of rationale. I mean, we had a civil war. We are the United States of America. Yes, there where we can go back in history and we have the current events of being on land that is still indigenously owned in fact, but we're going on and we're trying to resolve everything and get things going better and being better. And wouldn't it, I'm enough of a product of history, product of wars in my family. And it's so horrible, and we're all for peace through nonviolence. With Hawaii being so isolated from the rest of the continental United States, it seems I have a fuzzy, similar. I'm not comfortable with it. I respect and love Ann Wright so much. I hope she's on this call that she can speak a little bit more on this since she authored this. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Karen.
I'm against it.
Okay, Al.
Yes, just curious, do we have a chapter in Puerto Rico?
A chapter we do not have in Puerto Rico, no.
Well, I can see a similar thing happening if we did have one there. I'm for most everything I see on this. It's a little confusing to me on the very last part of it, where it says on par with chapters in Okinawa, Ireland, Vietnam, Mexico, and throughout the United States. It seems to me that if it's an individual, if it's recognized as an international group, I just think that that's an interest. I haven't had a chance to think that. I haven't wrapped my mind around that yet, and I was hoping that Ann would be able to speak on this.
All right, thanks, Al. And I might speak to some of that, but first let's hear from Willie.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead,
Hello?
Willie.
Oh,
Gotcha, Willie,
okay.
go ahead.
Well, I'm kind of like enjoy all the principles that are involved in this resolution and agree with the premises 100%. But it goes back to what an earlier person just said, is that, well, we're kind of going to internationalize our United States chapters. And that brings me to the fact that we're a nationally chartered organization. I don't believe we're internationally chartered anywhere. We have international chapters that we have tried. Mexico, I want to clarify, is a U.S. chapter. It's not an international chapter. I'm not sure about Vietnam and how they're set up. I thought they were just a regular chapter. But I don't see them as an international chapter. And I think that this is really a widespread kind of resolution. And I think that from my concerns in the past about the interactions with international chapters and having helped to form a couple, I'm concerned with the integrity of the organization if we take on an international role. I think it's good for our chapters in the other countries to be chapters of Veterans for Peace, provided they meet the criteria that's set aside for all the rest of the U.S. chapters. I'm not feeling good about the internationalizing everything. I just don't think that works for us unless we revisit this over the next year, set up a committee, and clarify these criterias for chapter membership, review them, and clarify them. I'd have to abstain from this. I'm not going to vote no on it because I support it in principle, but I'm going to have to abstain from it because of those reasons. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Willie. And again, just to stress to everyone that this is not something that will be official, and of course, until it's voted on later on in the year. And again, just to reiterate, this doesn't actually, this doesn't change anything in terms of official tax status, legal status, all of those kinds of things remain the same. It's a resolution of the organization, a statement of intent. It acknowledges the stealing of sovereignty and the consequences of U.S. settler colonial policy going back. And so, yes, it does open the door to acknowledge the history of the U.S. doing this in other places, to include all across the continental United States. This is, I would say, maybe part of the work of decolonizing. And while it doesn't change anything officially, it's an important act of recognition. And so it's a first step. But I'll let Ann Wright say a few words. Ann Wright, she's one of the submitters, by the way.
Surely. And if Pete or Jason is here also, certainly chime in. We appreciate all of the comments that everybody's given, because as you recognize it, this is a brand new approach to membership in a place that was a sovereign country and taken over by the United States. And we find in Hawaii, the whole issue of sovereignty is one of the great things that's being discussed. We have a large native Hawaiian population that serve in the military, because the military sucks in the people who need a job that can't get one in their own country. But we're having difficulty actually getting them to come back in veterans, or come into Veterans for Peace. And one of the ideas that Jason, Pete, and I had was that if we have this chapter that's now designated as kind of an international chapter, and the publicity that it will give will be a great recruitment tool, because well, gosh, you mean this is, as Josh has said, it's decolonizing this whole issue of what we call haole, or the white institutions that are put on native populations. And so we appreciate everybody's comment. If the decision is to certainly keep evaluating it and, committee working on it. I think that's great because as you mentioned, Puerto Rico, Guam, all of these places that are stolen property, as well as the native populations. I mean, why not have Navajo chapters and Dene chapters and all of this? Because the opportunity to have these types that reflect the real culture of the environment is something I think that we at Vets for Peace generally go along with and want to have happen. So further discussion is fine, but this is the first step in bringing up the subject. Thank you.
All right, and Paul Cox.
Yeah, when we discussed this, it was kind of a no-brainer. I mean, it is truly a symbolic action and has no, at this point, has no effect on the way VFP functions or what we do. I would like to point out a couple of things, and I think it was Willie that pointed out that the Vietnam chapter is made up exclusively of expats. But it has a unique, within this organization, it has these international chapters have a unique position in that any of us in the United States can belong to our local chapter and we can belong to an international chapter. So I'm a member of my San Francisco chapter 69 and a member of 160, as is anybody in this call can designate they want to be a member of 160 also. You don't have to pay dues twice, but that's about the only advantage of that. But what this is it's interesting because there is the outlines of the United States are not written in the Bible, and we have expanded and expanded and expanded. And if we could, we would make Guam and Micronesia and Puerto Rico states if we could. We in the Mariana Islands and maybe South Korea. I mean, some people in the United States had their way, our expansion is not over. And this is a way to call to question in a very minor way. I mean, this is going to have no effect on U.S. foreign policy, but in a very minor way, it's a way to call a question on that we have stolen and stolen and stolen. And Hawaii is a place for that to stop. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. Okay, I think we've got a kind of a good idea of some of the issues, and I will say a lot of the issues that have been brought up are things that we discussed. These are exactly the kinds of things that come up. I think it was James Baldwin who said, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. And this is an opportunity for VFP to really lead in facing the consequences of empire and showing what that looks like and getting these things resolved in a just manner. And it's going to involve some struggle in terms of just how we recognize, kind of goes back to the worldview, right? How we change our language and our mindset and understanding, so symbolically recognizing Hawaii as an international chapter reinforces the mindset that, oh, this is all a product of settler colonialism, and it gives us a good footing from which to live those ideas and not just say them. Okay, I think we can go ahead and put the imperfect straw poll method back up. And again, if you are voting no or abstaining, please register. If you're a yes vote, let's not just don't vote if you're a yes. That'll be assumed, but we want to try to see the no and abstentions, the no votes and the abstentions, so we can get a good idea of.
Ellen, what's our cohort for this straw vote?
Looks like 76 is what I'm seeing.
Oh, I see. It's right there. I say it no.
So if you're a no or an abstention, make sure you lodge that, please. And again, I can't see the chat, so I don't know what's happening there. But on the poll, it looks like we have 5 no votes so far and 8 abstentions.
Free OI. Oh.
All right.
Hasn't changed for a while, so I think.
Yeah, I don't see any more movement on that. So it looks like, inferring from everything here, about between 15 and 20% are either no's or abstentions of the total number of folks attending, is what I mean.
Yeah, the total is 77 and we have 5 no's and 8 abstentions. So that's.
Not quite 20%, but yeah. So 80% plus of the folks here are a yes. And again, remember, this is all going. We're going to see all this again on the ballot later this year, so we will have time to look at some of these things further. And you know, votes can always change at that time. They don't become official until we vote officially in, I think, October, November. All right, so we'll go ahead and close that out. That concludes the resolutions and bylaws portion of the business meeting. Thank you for that. I'll turn it back over to Susan. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Josh. And thank you, everybody, for a wonderful discussion on this issue.
Josh, can you stop sharing?
We have one more item for discussion. Ellen Barfield, who is chair of the nominations committee. Ellen, do you have a report?
I do. Thank you, Susan. We this year will be voting for 5 veteran seats. As you understand, on a 13-member board, it has to be staggered. So we have a 4 seats, 5 seats kind of a vote. And this year is a 5 seats. So we need more candidates. And our committee, made up of me, Enya Anderson, Dave Logston, and Stephen Zoltman, has been specifically reaching out to chapter leaders for them to reach out to their members, and also to individuals we have in mind. And all of you are welcome to do that. And I'm very pleased to report that here, a week before the nominations deadline, which is a week after convention, so I guess it's 8 days since convention doesn't end till tomorrow. We already have 6 candidates, and I will name them in the order they arrived. First of all, Josh Shirley, an existing board member who's running again. He's from Chapter 180 in Fresno, California. Windsor Wade from Geneva, New York. He's with VFP Rochester, and he was on the Peace Walk. Brian Early from Northeast of Massachusetts. He's with the Kevin Lucy Cape Cod VFP chapter. Alex Prochaska from Chicago, and he didn't note a chapter, which is interesting, but maybe he just skipped it. Mike Tork, another board member who's running again from Falmouth, Massachusetts, and he's an independent, which he noted. And the final applicant came in just yesterday, Eric Wasilewski from Pittsfield, Massachusetts in Chapter 95. He was also on a lot of the Peace Walk. So that's energized people, and that's great. I'm delighted we have more than half of what we want, which is 2 competitors for each seat. I will say that these are all men. It would be real nice if we had some women or some non-gender specific folks, or whoever else. Diversity is always wonderful. So think about it, talk to folks, reach out. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Ellen.
Is Enya running again?
People have time to still nominate themselves to run. So, right, we have 7 days after the close of the business meeting today. So
it's today. Okay. 7
right?
days. That's the 25th, I believe, is 7 days from today.
Thank you, Ellen.
24th.
So for all of you on this call, you still have 7 days, but I know that we would all appreciate your signing the form and signing up so that we know exactly how many candidates are going to be running for the board. Anything else, Ellen, or is that it?
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Terrific. Okay, folks, I believe this is the end of the business meeting. Ellen Davidson, are we going right into Presente, or do people have 10 minutes?
No, people have actually, I don't know why I didn't catch this, but the Presente is scheduled for 3:30. And it is a different web link, which was not reflected in my document. But the web link has been put on the convention website, because we realized that not everybody who registered for the convention might be at the, at the business meeting, that we usually do this as part of the Saturday night. So we wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance to be at it. It is gonna run into my tech check time for the 4 o'clock workshop. So if Gary Butterfield, if you're on here, we're gonna do that tech check really fast right before the workshop starts. And so I will put the link in the chat for the Presentes also.
Again, for everybody, for Presente, it's in about 40 minutes, and you need to sign off at this meeting and go into the Presente link that you have.
Yeah.
I think, thank you. Is there a move to adjourn the business meeting?
I
So
move.
moved.
Second.
So we have a couple of people moving. Anybody against? I'm going to take it your way, Josh. Is there anybody who wants to continue the meeting? Thank you. And again, thank you all for a terrific business meeting, getting through discussion, and so we move on. We'll see you at Presente and see you at this evening's program that starts at 6 o'clock Eastern time. So remember, tonight is 6 o'clock Eastern time. And thank you to all the participants. It's wonderful to have had such a great turnout at the business meeting. Thank you.